Hello, everyone. Just going to let the numbers filter in a little bit. Okay, they've kind of paused, so I'll go ahead and start. Thank you all so much for joining us today. I want to start by congratulating you all on your acceptance into Wake Forest. That's a huge accomplishment, so congratulations. Today, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Wake Forest experiences from real students. So my name is Logan Bolton. I am a senior from Fayetteville, Georgia. My pronouns are she, her, hers. And some of my extracurricular activities are I am a Wake Forest cheerleader. I'm the vice president of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated Pi Beta Chapter. I'm the vice president of marketing for Student Union, and I am a member of Black Student Alliance. And I will be moderating today's conversation. So I'm going to let each panelist introduce themselves, starting with Alex.
Hey y'all, my name is Alex Silverio. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm currently a freshman from Queens, New York City. I'm involved with a couple different things on campus. I work with the archery club. I'm a captain for that. For them, I do a bunch of stuff with the Intercultural Center, from stuff like this to M4 and a whole bunch of other things. And I also work with campus recreation as a referee.
Hi everyone, my name is Catherine Guo. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a second year, so sophomore. I'm from Lynchburg, Virginia, and I am the treasurer of InterVarsity and her campus media, the Wake Forest chapter, and I'm also involved in Asia.
Hi everyone, I'm Dulce Lopez Alvarez. I am a first year here at Wake. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I am from Greensboro, North Carolina. In terms of campus involvement, I am in the service fraternity, APO. I also am participating in the We3 group as part of the Intercultural Center. Because I am a first year, there are lots of things that I haven't explored, but I am looking forward to. I'm also part of OLAS, the organization that works with Latin American students. But yeah, I'm looking forward to talking with all of you.
Stevenson, if you introduce yourself.
Hello, everyone. My name is Stevenson Cerze. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia, and I am a junior here at Wake Forest. Some of my campus involvements include I'm president of the AFRICASA, which is African and Caribbean Students Association. I'm the POMARC for my fraternity, Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity. I'm also a president's aide, and I'm involved in some other things. Like I'm a manager for the women's basketball team, and I also work on campus rec. And then I'm also in a couple other clubs and organizations. And I'm also an ARIA.
Hello, my name is Jacob Thomas. I use he, him, his pronouns. I am a junior biochemistry major. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina, and I'm the president of the Black Student Alliance. I'm involved with the Student Life Committee, a member of Kappa Alpha Psi Fraternity Incorporated. I'm also involved with Committee on the Intersections of Bias Expression and Conduct, as well as a few other campus organizations.
Thank you, Jacob. So just a few announcements before we get started. So this event is being put on by the Intercultural Center. The Intercultural Center is committed to enhancing the experience of domestic and international underrepresented groups by offering co-curricular programming, advising, and advocacy that enhances intercultural knowledge, competency, and leadership. They offer a variety of programs throughout the year, a space to meet new people and relax, as well as resources to assist in your day-to-day life at Wake. And for more information, you can visit their website at interculturalcenter.wfu.edu. I can put it in the chat as soon as I finish. We will be recording this session, as you can see, so it will be posted on the website if you miss anything. Please utilize the chat feature for the Q&A at the end. I'm going to ask the panelists a few set questions, and then we will have open questions to anyone that drops them in the chat at the end. And then we also do have a representative from the admissions office to answer questions toward the end of the discussion as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started, but there are no questions now. So I'm going to ask each panelist, why did you choose Wake Forest University? You can start in any order.
Well, I chose Wake Forest because I was really intrigued by the small campus. The high school I went to was pretty big. At one point, we had almost 3,500 students. So, going to this such a much smaller institution kind of, meant a lot to me. And also, I just was really interested in the academics and the name of the school. And that's kind of a lot of the things that helped me make my decision.
So I chose Wake Forest because I was attracted by the small size, where there's a great student-teacher relationship that can be formed because there are small class sizes. And like Alex, I really was attracted by the size of the school. Coming from a small town in Virginia, I was a little afraid to go farther out and go into bigger schools. So Wake was the perfect size for me. And also, I was attracted by the business school. I've always been interested in business, and I was very, um, I was drawn to how the business school advertised itself and how um, nice and welcoming the staff and faculty are.
Similar to what was said before, I liked Wake Forest because of their class sizes and how many people were on campus. Believe it or not, I didn't know much about Wake Forest before I came, but Wake Forest was clutch because I got a pretty decent like financial aid package. But I knew that Wake Forest was like ranked top 30 on like national colleges, and I knew that going to the university would hold some weight. So that kind of persuaded me in making my decision to go to Wake rather than anywhere else.
I also chose Wake primarily because of the amount of money that they were offering me. They were very generous, and I think that me being the first person in my family to go to college, it was more of a who would be able to help me the most. And also, Wake offers so many resources and opportunities that I thought I could not take for granted. And it's also relatively close to where I live. And because I am very family oriented, I wanted to stay close and to be in North Carolina. Um, but yeah, those were mainly the reasons that I chose to come to Wake.
I chose to come to Wake for a lot of the reasons that have been mentioned by others, but I think I ultimately chose the school because I really appreciate the opportunities that you have to work with faculty and the opportunities you have to conduct research. And I think it's really unique to have an institution of this caliber and have faculty that are so engaged and so interested in making sure that students understand the material and they're so willing to involve you in their research and just really make sure that the classroom is kind of a place for you to be creative as well.
Thank y'all. Now we're going to go into some questions that not all of you have to answer. So if you feel so inclined, you can just go ahead and unmute. So our first question, please describe your overall first year experience.
My first year was pretty cool. I feel like my first year I got involved in just a few things. Like I was involved in BSA my first year. I attended some of their events like Bible study um, and then they just had events for like first years. I think there was like a first year panel that I recommend going to. So I did some stuff with that, and then class wise wasn't anything too crazy because I came in taking like 15 credit hours, and then I didn't want to overwhelm myself in the second semester, and that was before COVID and everything. So it was like a normal year, but it was definitely a fun first year of college.
Yeah, so being a freshman this year, my experience has obviously been a little different, and Dulce can definitely chime in with me on that. Just because of all the precautions the university has really been forced to take. But even still, I feel like I've been able to kind of like find a home in a community here. I mean, I was able to find a lot of stuff to do with the Intercultural Center and really to help me feel more at home and feel more connected with a lot of the students here, both of color and just to find new friends. I think it's been great, because because of COVID, we've kind of like suffered in various ways with what we can and cannot do. But even just a lot of the stuff that still goes on throughout the school has really helped me a lot. Even just like my on-campus job, just to kind of like help set stuff up and be doing stuff around campus, for students, even like helped me a lot. And I would say this has definitely been an amazing first year experience for me. Nonetheless, I feel like it probably hasn't been this year hasn't been as bad for me personally as maybe some of the upperclassmen, just because like for me this is kind of normal. So, but I would definitely say I wouldn't trade in this experience even with COVID for the world.
To add off of Alex's points, I also had a very hectic and crazy year, I think. With COVID, everything's online, socializing has been limited, which has definitely been difficult, but I think through like reaching out to other organizations or other students, that has definitely helped to really form some sense of community here at Wake. I will say for me, it has been more difficult just because I am more cautious and I try to stay more in my own room. Um, so it hasn't been as what I expected, and I'm hoping that next semester or next year will be a lot better. But given that we are in such a difficult time, I'm very grateful for what I have been able to do.
Thank y'all. Can a few of you share a positive experience in the classroom and a challenging experience in the classroom?
I think I can take this one. So, a positive experience in the classroom was when I got really interested in a subject. I actually made a research proposal and drafted a proposal to go to Chile to study what we were talking about in my Spanish class. So, that was a really cool opportunity to kind of expand upon what I learned. And I think that that just speaks to the academic freedom that you have here at Wake. And then a challenging experience that I had in the classroom. I think sometimes I'm trying to figure out how to frame this. I don't know. I think that some classes are just inherently challenging, and that presents a lot of difficulty. And you just really have to find a way to adapt and study for each class because each professor teaches differently, even within the same course, which I didn't really realize until I got to college. So you could have one professor, and your friend could have another professor taking the same class, and you may have to study differently just because different professors teach differently. So it took me a while to understand that.
For me, a positive situation that happened in one of my classes for my FYS, which is a first year experience. No, first year seminar. You take that your freshman year, and I had a really cool FYS because we read books and plays on like it was Black and Hispanic experiences in American musical theater or just theater. And at the end of the class, we ended up making a play on current events that was happening on campus, which was really cool. And then a bad experience, I guess it would just be like taking like maybe like too many hard classes at one time or just getting overwhelmed. And then you have to make a decision on whether, and you think that you if not, then maybe withdrawing from the course. So I've had to deal with that, and it's a decision at the time that you're kind of upset that you got to that point, but it's all about learning, kind of.
All right. What would you say is the most challenging part about being at Wake Forest?
I'll answer that. For me, I think the most challenging part of being Wake Forest is finding your community and your niche. There are so many different clubs and organizations offered on campus, um, but finding that specific group that you really vibe with took a while, especially for me, especially. So freshman year, I only had like a semester and a half on campus, and first, like your freshman year is the best time to make friends and find that community. Um, and it's been a little challenging. It was a little challenging. I've found out through my experiences and from other people's experiences that the people that you meet your first year are usually your closest friends. That's true for me. And I also think another challenging part is that learning curve. You're going from being the top of your class back in your high school to being in a group, in a classroom full of students who are also at the top. So there's also the feeling of imposter syndrome and feeling like you don't belong in that classroom. And just, yeah.
I can definitely relate to what Catherine was describing. Um, I think being a freshman during COVID, it has been a little bit harder to find those like first year connections, I guess, or those connections that you're looking for the next 4 years. So that has been difficult, but and another difficulty with that is being a person of color in a primarily white institution. It makes it a little bit difficult to find people that look like you and you have like similar experiences culturally. That's something that I've struggled with a lot. Um, I have found a few people and I'm very grateful for that, but it is different when you step into a space that is a space that you're not used to. And I also can agree with the imposter syndrome. I think when you go into these classes that are difficult, they're not supposed to be easy, they're supposed to be challenging. But when you come in thinking like, hey, I've been at the top all the time and now I'm doing average, it makes you feel a certain type of way. But I think that that's the whole purpose. It's supposed to challenge you. And I think that Wake does do that.
Thank you so much. Um, Describe your experience with administration support of students of color.
I think when it comes to individual administrators, they're definitely very supportive or largely supportive in my experience. I think it doesn't always show in their policies or the policies that are in place from former administrations, but I do think on a personal level, I know the dean of students I've spoke very closely with and had a lot of interactions with, and he's definitely very supportive. Um, and I definitely think that there are ways to work with people in administration and make sure that you feel supported on campus or your organization feels supported on campus, at least from my experience.
To be honest, I feel like mm, being Asian American on campus, I'm not necessarily the most supported. We have a very small population of Asian Americans, and um, there aren't many spaces or events that are catered towards us to support us in our academic journey. Um, so if I'm comparing to other uh, students of color, like their organizations, they're a lot more. Uh, they're more, I guess, they're more backed up. by administration than Asian students are. It could just be due to the fact that we aren't necessarily the most organized, or we aren't very vocal about what we need or want. So that's something that you would have to keep in mind. There are certain struggles that a lot of this Asian American students face, and we all face the same things, but there really isn't support for us. Like the school, I don't think the school is necessarily equipped with the knowledge to really support us. But I would like to see the school um, change through certain actions that my friends and I have been trying to um, do. We're trying to get the school to notice us a little bit more.
So I haven't really, I would say, interacted with any administration like one-on-one. The most is like in my campus advisory committee. I meet like once a month with Penny Rue, and she's like dean of, I think it's student life or something. And like I'll be able to ask questions, like one-on-one questions there, and she'll give me feedback on there. But and then like in my RA role, I'll be able to speak to the dean of residence life and housing. But when it comes to like, if there's any issues on campus with like being a student of color or anything like that, I feel like when it comes to the administration, they can't just deal with that one student who's having the problem. They kind of have to look at it overall. And usually in situations like that, you have to look at the university that you're at and understand that um, the way you want something to be solved, it probably won't be solved that way. And usually, like whenever I'm thinking of like administration and some of the policy that they have coming out, it's usually ends in disappointment. The administration here, they don't really handle problems in the ways that I think they should. And I think that was just something that I needed to get used to and get used to it. So I don't expect a lot from the administration here when it comes to certain issues. It's just something that I know that either we have to deal with or just like keep pushing forward to try to get change. Something I learned is that change won't come quickly. You just have to keep pushing forward. And that's something that you have to do with working with the administration here. Kind of like what Catherine is saying, like you, sometimes it comes with disappointment and sometimes you feel like there aren't any resources for your group. And sometimes things work out. It just depends on the situation.
Thank y'all for being so candid. Could you describe what student organizations and spaces you all are involved in and how you found those spaces?
Kind of like I was talking about earlier, some of the things that I'm involved in is campus recreation. I originally kind of got that job through my federal work study, and I definitely loved it since. It's a great way to kind of be involved in Wake Forest by, helping students, by, being active and stuff like that, but also it's a great way to meet people. And with the stuff that I do with the Intercultural Center, a lot of it I kind of looked for myself, and some of it also was kind of introduced to me by the Intercultural Center while I kind of after I got a little bit more involved, because for me my experience is going to be a little different than most people here, just because we didn't really get a club fair because of COVID. So a lot of the things that I found were sort of me being proactive in looking for that community and that niche. And one of the great things about Wake Forest, in my opinion, is that even though we are a small school, and you definitely feel it sometimes for sure, but there's still a lot of different organizations and a lot of ways to feel included on campus with the different like stuff like the Intercultural Center and for a lot of different groups.
I definitely agree with Alex. I think the biggest way that I've become more involved on campus this year is through looking at the newsletters and really responding or applying to different programs, and becoming more involved that way. Um, that's been the biggest help, is when organizations are reaching out. And I think that's where there was sort of a disconnect this year, because some organizations weren't reaching out to freshmen as much as I feel they might have wanted to, but they just weren't really reaching out to us as much. So that was difficult. But I know, like, when, for example, for APO, like the service route I'm a part of, I had to look for that through the OCCE. I'm sorry. I joined like a virtual tutoring program, and then through there I met people that were working with that service route, and I was able to get more involved on campus that way. So this year it's been a lot of you look, and then opportunities might present themselves to you.
I think a few of my favorite experiences have been my research, the Black Student Alliance, and probably Student Life Committee. So going into each one of those, first I got involved with my research actually this semester, and I'm a junior. So I just started working in a lab, and I do wet lab stuff. So I just work with chemicals and cells, and it's really interesting. And I basically got that by cold emailing people and just reaching out to people, which I think is really important early on in your experience to both go to events and also reach out to professors. Even if they're not from this university and you want to do something that they have available, I think it's a great time to just network like crazy. And then the second thing that I mentioned was the Black Student Alliance. So I just started going to BSA events, and that was a great opportunity for me to meet new people and just engage with the larger campus community. And then third, Student Life Committee. I actually don't know how I got appointed to that. I think it was just via connection, but I really have enjoyed working with administrators on that committee and other students to just kind of see the underworkings and inner workings of the university.
All right, this is our final pre-written question. So just a reminder to please drop any questions you may have in the Q&A box below, and our panelists will answer those for you. So our final pre-written question is, how has Wake Forest met your expectations, and where has it not met your expectations?
I would say Wake Forest met my expectations with the academic rigor. I think I knew coming here that it was going to be a challenge, and I feel like I've always been challenged each year. I feel like each year I get better, and then I'm also challenged again. So I definitely know that here you have to study, you have to find what study methods work for you. You have to put the time in and the work in. You also need to utilize your professors. So that's like scheduling office hours, doing study groups, and make sure you ask questions because they still want to help you and want to see you succeed. So that's definitely where they've met my expectations. I would say probably where Wake Forest hasn't met my expectations is sort of campus life. For me, I was just like with college life, you know, I was always expecting more, like more fun opportunities with maybe parties or even activities on campus. And especially this year, COVID has ruined that. But even before like my freshman and sophomore year, I feel like we needed more on campus and we haven't gotten that opportunity. So I would say that's where it hasn't met my expectations.
Kind of on the flip side there, I think one of the ways it hasn't met my expectations or kind of surprised me a little bit is actually how much I have been able to do just in the community. And I think a lot of that is just things that I do with my friends. I think one of the things that Wake Forest doesn't really advertise is like Renolda Village and the gardens in that area. And honestly, I've just had like a great time during COVID, just being able to get outside and um, kind of socialize safely and utilize the amenities that they have. Because I wasn't really expecting that. Like the tennis courts, just having a pickup game, like random things like that, I think are the times that Wake Forest has really surprised me a little bit.
One way that Wake Forest has really surprised me is kind of how much I was able to really do, at least academically. Even in my first year, for example, like I now have an opportunity to go this summer to Berlin to study German there, you know, with a scholarship from Wake Forest. I was actually really excited about that. And it really surprised me because I didn't expect to be traveling abroad at all this semester. You know, I mean, with COVID and just the fact that I'm a first year student, I thought going into it like that, those kinds of opportunities wouldn't be available for first years, but you know, they really are if you look for it. But I would say one thing that I have been kind of disappointed in was sort of that social support. But again, I think that's more of a COVID precaution than anything, where right now there definitely last semester at the beginning of this when there wasn't that much to do around campus, and there were definitely times where it just felt dead. But I mean, again, I would say there's a big asterisk on that. So
To go off of Alex, I think that I've also been a little disappointed in terms of like how much or how little we've been able to socialize and meet other people. I do think that has to do with COVID a lot. But another part of this year that has been really difficult, I think, has been the fact that we haven't been really given breaks. So we've just been working like for the whole semester. And that takes a toll on mental health and other parts of our lives. And I don't think we have the support that we should when it comes to that. But I do appreciate Wake in the terms of other resources that they provide, and the academic side. I feel like it has definitely challenged me, and I really like a challenge. So I really am like appreciative of all of that, as well as the professors, because they are very, very nice, and they will take time to help you on certain concepts if you don't know them. All you have to do is just reach out. So I will say that I do appreciate that from Wake.
All right, I think I will start going into our participant questions. Feel free to ask any other questions in the chat as we're answering these. So the first one is a hard hitter. Would you say that there's racism at Wake?
Heck yes. Oh, I didn't know I was muted. I would say yeah. But I feel like you're gonna get that at like any. I feel like you're gonna get that anywhere you go. But like there was definitely like some incidents my freshman year, sophomore year. I feel like this year was the first year that there wasn't like crazy racism that you weren't getting on campus, and probably that was because like this past summer was heavy. Um, but I feel like I know that in past years I've received some racism when going to frat parties, whether that was like not being allowed in because I was black or just the vibe was just different. But there's been certain instances on campus, but you can navigate through those.
How much academic freedom do you have within your chosen major?
I think that varies a lot depending on which major you choose. But then I think a lot of the science majors, you have a lot of freedom based on electives. I know it's that way as well in the art program and the Spanish program. Usually you have about, I want to say, 8 to 10 electives that you can choose from, at least in all the departments that I've been um, engaged in. And you use those to kind of supplement your core major classes. But it really varies from major to major how much flexibility you have.
Yes, definitely. As a communication major, there are a lot of concentrations within that major, so I agree with Jacob. Next question. What is the dining experience like?
I would say it's kind of a mixed question, to be honest. So our like main dining option is the pit. So it's basically the dining hall. I will admit, when I first got here, I was really excited about it. The food was good, but the problem is it tends to be sort of repetitive. But with that said, there's still a lot of other options on campus, like Chick-fil-A. That's always a heavy hitter. Can't go wrong with Chick-fil-A. You know, there's Subway, and that's open usually 24 hours a day. So, and a bunch of other options. And there's also stuff if you have a car to plenty of stuff in Winston-Salem to either Uber Eats or just drive to. So I would say the dining options are pretty good.
All right, Jacob, I'm gonna target you with these questions. How many people are in BSA, and are there any other clubs that are specifically for Black people?
Yeah, so basically, BSA is open to whoever wants to come. So it technically encompasses all the Black students on campus. Um, the degree to which we get engagement varies from event to event, and I think that at a lot of our bigger events, we have a great turnout where people are really socializing. Um, but it really encompasses every Black student on campus. So a lot of times you'll see different people coming to different events, and it just varies from event to event. And then what was the second one? Could you remind me? I'm sorry.
Are there any other clubs specifically for Black people?
Yeah, so actually, the one that Stevenson is a president of, Africasa, that largely is for Black students. I don't know if he wants to speak to that. Um, and then there's also, I think, Brother to Brother is what they're calling it, another organization that is kind of being created or in the process of being created at the moment to make sure that Black men on campus feel supported.
Right, so we have some questions about Greek life. The first one was, are there a lot of Black women in Greek life? As a Black woman in Greek life, I'll take that question. Not really, but we're a small school, so I think it's subjective. The proportions are pretty accurate. If you were to go to a bigger school, it would still be a smaller percentage, if that makes sense. So there are probably about less than 30 Black women in Greek life, but there are like around 50 MPHC members right now. So it's pretty proportionate. I will open this up to Stevenson or Jacob. As a person of color, what has your experience with Greek life been like?
Joining Greek life last year's spring was interesting just because we joined during COVID. So it was a different experience compared to what other people have went through. But just with the weather warming up and us being allowed to do more stuff like this semester, I feel like Greek life is picking up, and it's really exciting just because this has been like the most, at least since I've been at Wake for the past 3 years, this is the most people we've had in Greek life for male and women on this campus. So I feel like next year should be a pretty exciting year for Greek life.
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit on it. I crossed in spring 2019, so I got to experience it pre-COVID. It's definitely a very tight-knit community, I would say, because we're such a small school, and the Black Greek life community is so much smaller compared to the Pan-Hellenic and IFC community, which are the predominantly white Greek councils. So there are a lot of opportunities to like mingle within the council. So there's like Yard Fest, Meet the Greeks, which is open to the public, and things of that nature. So it's pretty close knit, and as Stevenson mentioned, it's definitely growing. Every chapter has been much larger for this past semester. So our next question, do you feel that the size of Wake Forest has limited you?
Personally, I think the size, well, it depends on whether you like big spaces or you like smaller spaces. I personally prefer that Wake isn't that big because that allows you to form connections with your professors and other students. So I think it opens up more avenues for you actually because it's not too small and it's not too big.
Yeah, to add on that, I feel like the only time you'll really hate Wake's class size and stuff like that is during class registration and room selection. That's the only time when there's a problem because classes will fill up and you'll be like, man, I really want to take that class. And now it's full. So I have to choose a different professor. And then during room selection, that's like one of the most stressful processes you go through um, because like you have to basically find a group of friends you want to room with. And then if you have to find the friend with the best registration time, because if not, you may not be able to register. Like 1 year I had to wait until July when everybody already had their registrations in like March, but it ended up working out for me. So.
All right, Catherine, I have a question for you. You mentioned that you participated in Asia. Could you speak more about that?
Yeah, okay, so Asia is an organization on campus that is catered towards Asian students and students who are interested in Asian culture. They specifically Asia. I believe Asia is more East Asian focused. However, I have noticed them spreading out and trying to include the Southeastern students, so to like Indonesia, the Philippines, and all that areas. Um, it's great that I really like. To me, the Asia is a great way to meet other Asian students. I have been able to make a lot of friends through that. But it's a great place of community. You're able to not only mingle with people who are Asians, but you can also meet people who are interested in Asian culture.
Thank you. Where on campus is your favorite place to study, and where is your favorite place to unwind?
So when I first started out, the library was my favorite place to study. I lived in the library. I would literally throw down my books, take a nap in the library, and keep studying after that. But after freshman and sophomore year, I feel like I kind of toned that down, and I just learned to study in my room. And now I like my room as a study place. And then when I want to wind down, I go to the gardens or just go on a run through the gardens, walk through the gardens, or just hang out with my friends anywhere and kind of unwind.
All right, we have a bit of, oh, sorry, Stevenson, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was gonna say my favorite place to unwind on campus in the Intercultural Center. The Intercultural Center, they have snacks, they have game boards, TV, and then usually you can just talk to the staff and other students go there to unwind as well. That's where I hear about a lot of opportunities where it's like registering for this club or maybe this program's coming up or to apply to certain things. The staff in the Intercultural Center really look out for you, and they, especially if you're a regular, then they'll tell you about upcoming opportunities or ask you if you want to participate in things such as this panel.
Yeah, I definitely second that. The Intercultural Center is a really good space to just, pre-COVID, it was a really good space to just hang out, but it's a good place to study now as well. We have another more detailed question. How would you propose that the administration change to make you feel more supported or able to engage in the WFU community?
I think if Wake just acknowledged our struggles and accepted the fact that there are so many problems going on, I think that would be a great way for us as students of color to move forward, and also for the administration to slowly change and implement new ways that could help better support us.
Do you feel like there are faculty allies at Wake that are not just people of color? I'm gonna say yes already, because I know some really great professors and faculty who are not people of color that are supportive, but I'll let the rest of the panel continue.
No, yeah, I definitely agree with what Logan said. I feel like all of the faculty that I've had have definitely been very supportive of me, being a student of color and all of that. So I wouldn't say it's ever been a problem for me. And it's interesting because also a lot of the faculty are genuinely interested in my experience as a student of color at Wake Forest, but in a respectful way, I will not like in an intrusive way, because they really are committed to like making sure we have the best education possible here, that we're truly enjoying our college experience, as opposed to kind of just like being stuck here because like we feel like we can't transfer out. Like I truly do feel like the administration does care about me.
I agree with everything Alex just said about professors wanting to know you and your experiences, but in a respectful way. I also think it's interesting that there are times when Wake professors will challenge the administration just like we do, which I think is really great that they care about their students. I have a couple professors that I know have done that. So on to our next question. How often do people leave campus, and is there a college town nearby or anything to do off campus?
I would say people do go off campus often, especially if they have vehicles. There's a HBCU 10 minutes from campus is Winston-Salem State University. I wouldn't say that Winston-Salem is a college town, just because we don't interact really that much. But there are a lot of like restaurants that students will go to off campus, and Greensboro is also only 30 minutes away. So there's also colleges and other options like food places, trampoline parks. So it's like a pretty nice town.
And I'll also add on to what Stevenson just said. If you guys don't have a car, either you're not bringing it on campus, you just don't own one, but you have a license. What the university, you can do is you can actually rent a car for like a day, called Zip Cars, which have definitely been really cool. My friends and I, we usually rent those out to go places. Just a couple weeks ago, we actually went out to, I think it was Pilot Mountain, to go hiking there. So there's definitely a lot of different things to do. And also the shuttle systems are a great way to kind of get to Winston downtown, which is honestly just a really dope area in general.
Alex is reading mine because he just answered the next question, which was how easy is it to get to restaurants or activities in Winston-Salem? So like he mentioned, you can rent a Zip car. Also, there are multiple shuttles that go on campus. There's a shuttle to the mall, there's a shuttle to Target, and it runs all day until about 6 or 7 p.m. I can't really remember. So that's what I utilized a lot my freshman year because I didn't have a car. Next question. In your time at Wake, do you think you have ever had a racist teacher?
I don't think I've had a racist teacher per se, but I've had teachers who were ignorant of my experiences as an Asian American student. Um, there are some microaggressions that they've had towards students. Specifically, like some of my friends who went to an international school back in China, so they have an American accent. And sometimes these professors would ask things such as, um, wow, you're like, where'd you learn your English? It's so good. And then when my friends would tell them, oh, I went to international school, the teachers would just continue asking things that would make these students uncomfortable. So I think with Wake, they're not, a lot of the faculty are ignorant, or some of the faculty are ignorant of the experiences, or they just haven't been exposed enough to these students to really understand where they come from and what their experiences were like.
All right. Besides academic rigor, what are some of the opportunities to push yourself?
I feel like
Oh, go ahead, Jacob.
I feel like honestly, college is all about pushing yourself socially as well. So I feel like there are certain times where you're going to be all socialized out. But I think it's definitely important that you do engage and network to the best of your ability.
Just to add on to that, I kind of feel like trying new things. College is also about trying new things. So, like maybe if going to the gym isn't something you do, like maybe there's a nice gym on campus with a lot of different amenities like swimming, rock climbing, and then a bunch of equipment. You can try that. Try studying abroad. You may not have to study abroad and like per se take a class. It could be like just for the opportunity. I know that there's one where you're kind of like working out and learning about nutrition, and then there's also just like going to the OPCD. They kind of get you ready for like getting your resume right, your cover letter, and studying abroad. So I guess preparing yourself for post college life is also something that you could push yourself to do.
Yeah, I'm gonna echo Stevenson. The OPCD is great, and that's the Office of Personal and Career Development, and they're really effective. Um, does anyone on this call have any experience with double majoring or choosing an open curriculum? Okay, I didn't think so. I'm not either. I have a friend who is in an interdisciplinary major, which is basically open curriculum. You can't do that with every major. You have to get it approved by a professor. It's a pretty challenging process from my understanding, from how he explained it to me, because you basically have to pick the classes that you think should be in your major. So you have to like look at all these other courses and present them and propose them, and then explain how these connect to this interdisciplinary major. But I'm not an expert, of course, so I would encourage you to reach out to the registrar or someone who can explain a little bit better. And in terms of double majoring, you have to have 120 hours to graduate. So if you choose to double major, that is totally up to you. More power to you, because it's a little bit more rigorous, of course. And then there are set hour requirements for each major. So for example, I'm a comm major. I can't think of the hours off the top of my head, but if it's like 30 hours that I have to have in order to graduate, you would still have that requirement if you had another major. So it's just up to you managing your requirements. Hopefully that makes sense.
Also, I just want to add on quickly, if you double major in minor or major in like triple minor or something like that, then I think that it jumps up to like 135 credit hours as a graduation requirement.
Yes, thank you for that, Jacob, because Wake is already a little challenging. So, but if you have the time management, more power to you. Does the average class size vary greatly depending on the major?
I would say definitely it does depend on the department pretty heavily. For example, I will say that I'm taking a German 112 class, which is basically elementary German semester 2. My class in person has a grand total of 6 people in it. Um, but you know, some of my other classes are a bit bigger. I will also say again, like pretty much a lot of the things I've said, that does change a bit with COVID because the university has made a conscious effort to make a lot of the class sizes smaller. But from what I've noticed, also from like hearing like from a lot of my peers, that usually the higher you go in a class or in a major, the smaller the classes tend to be. And again, it just does vary a lot by what department you're doing. For example, you're gonna find Spanish, French, and Italian classes that are gonna be a lot bigger than your German or Russian classes.
I would also like to add that for business school, like the prerequisites, those are, since they are the weed out classes and they are the prereqs, those have a lot of students in there. My accounting course last semester had around, I believe, 40 something students, and that was just for my section. But I think in total there were around through 300 or 400 students who were all taking that class. So I think my biggest class size for any of my business school classes so far, I think it maxed out at around 40.
All right, Catherine, I'm going to transition you into our next question. Is getting into the business school hard?
I wouldn't say it's hard. It does take a lot of your time and energy. Um, Calculus and econ were not too difficult, but accounting was definitely the one that pulled my leg. It is a weed out class. So weed out classes are usually classes that schools will implement to lower or yeah, to decrease the number of applicants. Um, and a lot of students I know were struggling in that class. But if you can get through that one specific class, it makes everything down the line so much easier. Um, yeah, I don't think the business school was hard to get into. You just have to put a lot of your time and energy into it.
Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to consolidate some of these. So one of the questions is, who are some of the best professors y'all have had? So if you want to type those in the chat so that you can write them down, I think that's a little bit easier. And remember that they will be coming in as freshmen, so they probably will not get any major specific classes yet. So if you could keep it toward the divisional, that might be a little more helpful. While you're doing that, our next question, specifically for the juniors, so Stevenson and Jacob, would you have still chosen Wake over other schools based on your current experiences?
So I just want to preface this by saying that I originally did not want to come to Wake, and I thought I was gonna hate it. I really did not want to come here, but now looking back, I'm so glad that I chose Wake. I think that overall this is a perfect place for me to have grown, and I really appreciate the experience to have come here.
I also don't think I would change it just because the amount of opportunities that Wake Forest has provided for me is really huge. That's like financially, like coming here, and you really have opportunities like study abroad. OPCD has stuff where you can like get a clothing grant, or if you need help with summer funding for classes, just the opportunities that they provided for me has like outweighed, I guess, the social aspect. And really, like, you can bring the social life to campus. It just, like, if that's the type of person you are, you can still have fun. And I think that that's just something that you just have to put a little extra work in.
Thank you. Is anyone pre-med? And if so, can you share your experience?
Yeah, I am pre-med. So it definitely takes a lot of time. I'd say, honestly, I'm at the point, I'm a junior now, so I've taken Orgo, I've taken all of the kind of core pre-med classes, and I feel like first 2 years are difficult, but once you get past those and get into your major courses, it definitely dies down a little bit. And I will say they're advising for pre-med is a little bit kind of all over the place. Like I think that they could have a stronger advising program for um, the pre-meds here, but I know that they are trying to work on that. And it's just something that you have to do a lot of research for by yourself to begin with. So I would just say to make sure that you're doing your research and make sure that you're staying on top of your classes and your academic work is on par.
I'm muted. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question and I think we can close out. This is a good one. I heard that there are multicultural groups on campus. Are they similar to mainstream sororities and do they have the same energy around them? Okay, I'll touch on the multicultural sorority. There's a multicultural sorority. It is called Delta Xi Phi Sorority Incorporated, I believe. So it's multicultural and it is a member of the MPHC Council as an associate chapter. And so they have a pretty good following. I think they have about 30 members, which is very good for our campus being so heavily PWI. There are also a lot of multicultural student organizations. So like Catherine mentioned, there's Asia, there's SASA, BSA, I can't remember all of them at the top of my head. But I do believe the Intercultural Center can definitely point you out to whatever you're interested in. So in the interest of time, I think that's all we can cover for today. Thank you all so much for attending. Thank you for asking such great questions, and thank you to our panelists for being so candid and so vulnerable. If you have any additional questions, please contact the Intercultural Center at interculturalcenter@wfu.edu, Thomas Ray at rayrt@wfedu.edu, or the admissions office at admissions@wfu.edu. Also, be sure to visit the admitted students website, which is accepted.admissions.wfu.edu, and that link will be posted in the chat. And the deadline to submit your deposit is May 1st, so if you haven't done that yet, please do so. As a reminder, be sure to check your email for summer orientation opportunities. There are a variety of pre-orientation events like Worldwide Wake, Spark, Build, et cetera, et cetera. So once again, thank y'all so much for joining us today. This recording will be online. Someone in the chat said do Build for pre-orientation. So y'all have a great rest of your evening, and thank you for attending.
Bye.